Bechamel sounds fancy, but it's just simply butter, flour, and milk. And it is intended to be a base for lots of other creations. Once you've got this, you can turn it into whatever you want. It's all happening right at the stove. Let's get started. Like a lot of sauces, this sauce starts with a roux. A roux is simply equal parts fat and flour that are cooked together and used to thicken. The more flour you add into a roux, the thicker your sauce is gonna be. You definitely wanna cook it first to cook out some of that starchy taste. So we'll start by melting our butter. Once your butter's melted, we'll just whisk in the flour. We're gonna cook that about 5 minutes or so, till it starts to kind of almost smell a little bit nutty. Another thing you wanna make sure is that you use a whisk. That's gonna break up any clumps of flour. We are not trying to change the color or develop a dark roux in this kind of sauce, so we wanna keep the color nice and light. That's a good consistency for just a basic roux. The main thing you really want to remember is that it's about equal parts of fat and flour. The fat doesn't always have to be butter when you're making a roux, but for this classic bechamel, it is butter and flour. Once your roux has cooked and you can start kind of smelling that nuttiness, we're going to whisk in our milk. You want to make sure your milk is not ice cold. It just incorporates a lot better if you've brought it to room temperature or even if it's a little warmer. You also want to add your milk gradually while you whisk. This will help prevent any clumping. You never know the full thickness of your cream sauce, so you want to be patient, let it come to a boil or a simmer, and then you'll know how thick it's going to be. From there, you can determine if you need to add more milk or less. We've reached the boiling point, so I've reduced it to just a gentle simmer, and you want to cook this for about 15 minutes or until all that floury taste has cooked out. You also want to stir pretty frequently so that a skin doesn't form on the outside. When it comes to the consistency of a good bechamel, you just want it to coat nicely the back of a spoon, a velvety, creamy sauce. At the very end is when you want to season it, and the classic seasonings for bechamel is just salt and freshly grated nutmeg. Little nutmeg goes a long way, so you just need a pinch. And that's it. Rarely you're going to eat this just like this unless you're serving it maybe over just some roast chicken or something like that. But the most popular way probably to use a bechamel is to turn it into a cheese sauce for mac and cheese or scalloped potatoes. When it's done, you just want to turn the heat off, and while it's still hot, just stir in your cheese. If you want to add any grain mustard or Worcestershire, now's the time. The heat from the sauce will just gradually melt that cheese until it's this velvety deliciousness. You can't get this real taste from a block of Velveeta. That's what I'm talking about. You can make this as easy or as complicated as you wish. Of course, I'm going the easy way. Bring it straight over our pasta. Watch how it perfectly coats these noodles. And then the extra starch from the pasta is going to help it stick. Of course, you can eat it just straight like this, but I like to bake it up with a little more cheesiness. So I'm gonna add it straight to a casserole dish and top it with a little more cheese. If it looks a little thin at first, trust me, that's exactly how you want it, because it will take on a thickness once it hits those noodles or whatever you're serving it with. The longer it cooks, because this is gonna go through another little cooking process, the thicker it's gonna get. Sounded fancy, but I told you it was easy. Something so delicious started with something so simple. Little cracked pepper over the top. Cheese is my favorite vegetable. Throw out the boxes, throw out the cans. You're 3 ingredients away from the base to the perfect mac and cheese. I'm out of here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? How do I sound? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? How do I sound?